Hello, what is up? My name is Bailey, and I'm definitely not recording this intro after already finishing the rest of the video. No, couldn't be me for getting an intro. But hi, nice to meet you. I today am going to be building a all black house using just the base game and The Sims 4 Life and Death. So I guess let's just get into it. Okay, so right from the start, this build was giving me a lot of trouble. This was the third or fourth version. I had already bulldozed the lot multiple times at this point because I pretty much only do the same blue suburban builds. Let's be real. I just do suburban houses and I was really trying to get out of my comfort zone and make something that I felt would one go well with the sim that's going to live here and two fit into the aesthetic of the world as well. Color-wise, you'll see that it does end up standing out to say the least in this little neighborhood, but I do think that the build style overall, like the architecture, um at bare minimum looks like it belongs here. And I did end up going with all black, which you'll see, but that was more so because of the sim that I'm going to be having living here. I made Violet from My Sims, if y'all know that sim. And she is a spooky sim. She likes dark things like that. So I decided to go with the all black theme because I thought that that would fit her best. But yeah, you can see that I really didn't know what I wanted it to look like. I didn't really want to just have like a big rectangle, but I decided in the end that that is what looked the best. So that's what I went with. I was trying to change up the roofing a little bit here, but you could see that the columns were clipping. And I decided I was too lazy to try and make that work. So we just kept the um roof overhang at minimum, and then I use that freeze around the top, which I think works. You also can see that there's too many shades of black. I mean, I guess I shouldn't complain about extra swatches in this game, but I could not figure out which black was the true black that matched. So that was a little bit of a struggle. I do love this type of a roof. I didn't know how to do this. I did end up having to look up a YouTube video on different roofing styles because I could not figure that out on my own. I tried really hard, couldn't do it. Um, but yeah, I think it really looks cute. And I don't typically build this dark. I have done recently a handful of builds that are pretty dark and black. But that's just because of what The Sims has had going on recently. So we had the Reaper's Rewards event. I built a house for that. Obviously Life and Death. A lot of the stuff, the best swatches in this pack is they are all black. So it did actually work out pretty well for this build specifically. You'll see that I kind of had a little bit of a hard time figuring out the floor plan just because I wanted the windows to look good from the inside and the outside, which, if y'all build a lot, you know, sometimes that can be a real struggle. The way that things look best from the outside is symmetrical. The way things look best from the inside is symmetrical most of the time. But sometimes your floor plan just does not line up properly. So I went through a couple different variations of floor plans, but ended up being pretty simple. There's a small entryway, and then you go off to the right. There's a living space, which I didn't realize as I was doing this is really awkwardly shaped. So it took me a while to furnish it. A little bathroom, and then over to the left is where I'm going to end up putting the kitchen and dining space. And then upstairs, we had a couple of bedrooms um, and a bathroom. I think I may redo this layout. I think I do redo the upstairs layout. I'm not 100% sure. Um, but yeah, I'm starting to kind of mess around with the windows upstairs. I did I like the windows that come in this pack, but I felt like it was kind of difficult because they were a little bit too wide. Most of them were pretty wide, and I wanted something that was a little bit smaller, that wasn't like that wooden one. There's a rough, rustic type of window, that would be, on a rundown house. I wanted, that round circular one, but just a little bit smaller, but I did end up making it work. I just had to mess around with the layout a little bit, and I kind of made some compromises. So the windows are not perfect from the outside, but I think that they work good enough. And realistically, who's actually looking at the exterior of the build anyway? You're basically just going to be playing inside. So I think that ended up working out pretty well. This side over here, I was very confused as to what to do, but I think, I don't know, I ended up getting the windows all good in the end. So I guess that's all that matters. It took me a long time though. It's embarrassing how long I spent. I cut some stuff out too. It's embarrassing how long I spent on these windows, but I wanted it to look good. And I also didn't want it to look like a face. Like sometimes when you're putting windows on your house, it ends up looking like a face, okay? But now we're moving on to painting the house. And like I said, I this entire house is basically just black. So I ended up going with the brick that has the like trim along the outside of it, like on the corners, just because I thought that that added a little like extra variation, a little something to the house. Um, I don't typically use that like type of wallpaper because a lot of our wallpapers, right, in The Sims, they have you know, plain brick and then brick that has like a trim on the side, and I just don't like where it auto places most of the time, but I did kind of like it. You'll see that I kind of bounce around a lot. This build was not super easy for me just because like it's a style that I'm not super used to, like these more modern items, and it's also just like a pack that I'm not used to since it's brand new. So I kind of went back and forth between different rooms. So I hope that that is okay. Sorry if that bothers anybody, but just warning, I am going to be jumping around a lot, going back and forth between things. And maybe now is a good time to point out as well, this is a base game and life and death like only build. So I didn't use any other packs. And I think that was also like limiting me. I was really struggling to furnish certain areas because I was like, oh, I really want to use this item. And then I was like, oh, never mind, can't use that item. But I wanted to make it accessible for people who maybe just have the new pack, or just don't have like a whole lot of packs. But I liked the way that this little kitchen dining space turned out, even though like I'm not a huge fan of this style. I don't know exactly what it would be called. It's not necessarily modern. I guess maybe it is. I don't know. I don't really know my build styles that well. And here is the first of many times that I struggled with curtains. Curtains were the big thing that I really wished I was using other packs for because Life and Death does not come with any curtains. And I shouldn't rant about it, but I'm going to rant about it. Why how can an expansion pack not have curtains? Please explain that to me, EA. How does an expansion pack, the most expensive pack in the game, not have curtains? Like what do you mean? What do you mean? And because I was doing an all black house, most of the curtains that came in, like come in base game, just weren't dark enough. Um, so I had that problem throughout the entire house. They either had they were too gray, like they just weren't like a true dark black, or they had like white accents. And so a lot of spaces in this house just simply don't have curtains, which if you did want to download this house and you have like a different pack, obviously you can add them in. When I play in this, I may end up adding some curtains in to a couple of places just because I do think it would look better with curtains. But so you can see too, like those are just too gray. I didn't like the style that a lot of them came in. So I just had to compromise and decide, you know what, it's fine. We don't need the curtains. We don't need them. Um, I do really like a lot of the stuff that comes in this pack that's like not the modern aesthetic. The more like old looking furniture. I think that is really pretty. I also was really frustrated with the rugs as well because, like I said, I was making this like an all black house, and the rugs really didn't have a lot of dark swatches compared to a lot of the other stuff. Like the vibes of this pack, the aesthetics of the pack are pretty dark. And then the rugs kind of had like these brighter swatches. So I really struggled to like get them to work in the house. Um, and we also, I learned, don't have a lot of base game rugs that are a nice true black. At least that matched and worked in this. You'll see I'm trying to like make a little fireplace like chimney thing work. It doesn't work. It doesn't. I don't know what I was doing. I don't know what I was thinking. I immediately got rid of it. But here you can see like when I was saying the layout of this living space is weird. Um it's very weird. I I ended up making it work, but I was really struggling with it because I didn't really realize that like awkward alcove on the back. Um, it's just not a good size for like anything. I guess You know what? I didn't consider I could have put a desk there, but I have an office. We make an office on the second floor, so I think maybe that's why I didn't consider making that into a little like office nook. Maybe if I hadn't had an office upstairs that I was planning to make, I would have done it. I also love that like little painting set, but then I realized that it kind of looks like it belongs in like Grimm's office. Like it has some like charts and things on it. So we got rid of it, just replaced it with the painting with the Grimm on it. And I did end up making that corner work. It just is a little like reading nook. I think it's fine, but it was very awkward. It was weird and I did not consider that it was such a weird shape when I was making it. Also, for the tarot cards, I really wish the tarot cards had wood like that could change because there's so many different swatches of the tarot card poster itself, right? But they all have the same wood color around it. And it's like an orangey, red, brighter wood, which is one, my like least favorite wood color in general in the game. But two, it just doesn't match most things. So if you like that wood color and you build with that wood color a lot, it's gonna be perfect for you. But I wanted to use that item in this house and I just couldn't make it work. Um, I don't know. I feel like I have mixed feelings on the items that come in this pack. Like for example, this shelf, right? Why are there bars like that? Like I put the little salt and pepper and then I was like, "Wait, that looks so silly." Like you're not even going to be able to get to the salt and pepper because the bar is in the way. So, I don't know. I like the pack. I do like the build buy stuff that comes in the pack, but a lot of things I just had like little issues with. Not to say that it's bad or anything, and that's definitely like a me problem, not a you problem. If you like that orange wood, you're gonna like the tarot card. If you don't mind the bars, then you'll like that shelf. Now we're working on the little office space, and I did end up getting to use the like painting thing that I liked. In here because the wall was big enough, so that was nice. Also, I learned that we don't have a lot of good black lamps. Basically, what this build taught me is that base game does not have a lot of solid black things. Um, when you think it would. You really would think that it would. Um, lamps. There were a lot of lamps that we have in base game, and, like, none of them had a true, just solid, plain black swatch. So that was really frustrating. Here you can see I'm using that, little set of paintings. This is my favorite plant in the game. Just a little side note, I really like that plant. I think it fits in, like, every single build. Um, I also wish that the pack came with, like, another big plant, like a standing plant, but I mean, I guess you're not gonna get that in every pack. Now I'm working on a little kids room, and I do have plans for, like, what I'm gonna use this house for. I don't have any children. I don't know if I even plan to have children, although I guess I do. I guess actually that's a lie. I do plan to have children because like, wanna have kids with Grimm, in this save. So, we have a little children's room for whenever that time comes. Um, I ended up having to use, like, a little bit of color, like, in that dollhouse and stuff just because I wanted there to be some more furniture in the house or in the room, but, it makes sense that kids' things don't come in black because, kids need bright, vibrant colors to grow and learn and things. I did end up using the lamp there that wasn't like a solid black because I felt that at least in the kids' room, like if it was a little lighter, that was fine. None of the crypts come in a good, nice plain black. The only one that does has a bright orange bedding in it, so couldn't use that. Um, Now we're moving on to the exterior, and I cut so much out. When I tell you I cut so much out, I was really struggling with the, like, landscaping for this build. So I ended up you can see I'm, like, looking at the world around me. I ended up just going with, like, the typical landscaping that I feel comfortable with, but I do think it looks really good. It just looks, like, slightly out of place, or I guess it makes the lot look more lush and it's a bit greener than the surroundings, right? The surroundings, they kind of look like it's an eternal autumn, which I believe the Sim Gurus said like that was the goal that they wanted it to feel like it was always autumn in this world. Um, and it's very bright and green and lush, the landscaping that I went with, but I do think it looks cute. Um, I didn't use any debug, so the lot ended up being pretty expensive. A lot of that is because of the landscaping, which, What can you do? What can you do? I don't know. I was originally gonna try and make this a starter home, and then I hadn't even furnished it. Legit had not started furnishing it, and I was like, it's over 25,000. That's an issue. So we just decided that, I'm not going to limit myself. And I just built the house how I wanted to build it. And I think it ended up being a little bit pricey in the end. But a lot of the stuff that comes in this pack is also just like expensive. Like the kitchen set itself is like thousands of simoleons. So I was really just doing all that I could. Um, I don't know if I, like, truly love the way that the landscaping turned out. I do think I did, like, a good job with what I was working with, because I'm not very good at landscaping, but it's just a huge yard. I typically try and, like, have my builds be on smaller lots, and when I was building this, I looked around and there weren't any smaller lots that came in this world, so I think this is, like, a 30 by 30, and I was looking for like a 20 by 15 lot and I didn't see any. So I just had to fill out a lot of the like landscaping and stuff when I typically wouldn't do that. I would just have a bigger house take up more of the lot, but I didn't really want the house to be any bigger because I wanted it to still feel slightly starter home esque, even though it's really expensive. Um, but I don't know, I do think, like, it turned out cute. I think it could be better, but that's okay. Everybody's their own, like, worst critic, right? Isn't that a phrase or something? Isn't that what people say? You can see that the landscaping is, like, very, very repetitive. It's the same thing over and over and over again, but I think that it looks fine, like, it looks decent, it works, for the purposes of, like, just making up filling in the space. Um and I have, like, the little play set over there because I will have kids eventually. I think that they'll use that. Most of the outdoor space, I probably am not really gonna be using much. I don't even know how much I'm gonna be on the lot, if I'm being honest, because I don't know if I've talked about it, but I am gonna be using this house to make a video, where maybe a video series, maybe a video, not 100% sure, where I look into how much time it takes to finish up the Life and Death pack. Because for like most games, you can be like, oh, how long does it take to play Baldur's Gate 3? Or how long does it take to play Breath of the Wild? Or things like that. But you can't Google how long does it take to play The Sims 4 Life and Death. I did it. Nothing came up because that's just like not how The Sims works. It's not meant to be like a certain amount of time and then the game is over. There's no main story. Um, so I thought that it would be fun to kind of look at just how long it takes to play through all of the main things, all the main features that come in the new pack. I thought that would be fun. So that's what we're going to be doing here. One of those features is having kids with Grim. So I guess we'll have some kids that are using that little play area at some point. I also don't know who the graves are for. Um, they don't have headstones either. I didn't realize that you were supposed to put headstones on the grave sites until after I finished this build because I was building a cemetery and then I was like, oh, it's slots. Oh, I was supposed to. Okay. So I guess that it's just a like it's there in case we have Sims die. We'll have that. Um, I didn't really know what I wanted to do for the pathway here. I really like always end up using that little pebbly pathway, but I didn't know if it was gonna look good. I think it does though. I think it matches because I did my typical landscaping, and it looks good with my landscaping. And then on either side of the house, it was just empty and I didn't know what to do. So I kind of just put some terrain paint and like made it a little bit darker and it pretty much fit. I think that it just like helped it out. This is the first time I've ever painted ceilings. Fun fact, I didn't realize that I just never used that feature until I was like flipping through and I was like, oh, that's really bright because everything else is so dark. Um, but yeah, we're coming up to the end here. So I think that it could be fun to really quickly hop into game and just take a little walkthrough of the finished house. I think I made a couple of small adjustments after I stopped recording. So just look at all of that and just kind of see what the house actually looks like if you're going to be playing in it, as opposed to this like sped up version for this recording. So yeah, let's hop into the game and I'll show you the house. Okay, and here's the final house. I like it. I think it turned out cute. Also, side note, sorry that the lighting is different, the sunset. There's not really anything I can do about that. But yeah, here is the house. Here's the sim we're gonna be playing with in that other series. Look at her. She's so pretty. And I really think that the house fits her vibes pretty well. So again, when you first come in, you've got a little entryway. Over to the left, there is a kitchen dining space. Pretty basic, pretty simple. Over to the right, there is a living space. Again, the weird, awkward book nook, a bathroom. If you come upstairs, there's an empty hallway. And then you have the kids' bedroom, an office, and a pretty nice master suite. You've got a decent sized bedroom and a little bathroom over there. We are prepared in case anybody dies. We have some grave sites. And wait, this is actually, I didn't realize this. On the left-hand side, we have grave sites, that's like death. On the right-hand side, we have a little children's playground, which is like life, like kids, life. Both sides. We got both sides of the coin here in this build. But yeah, I really like it. I've been actually, I know that I complained a lot about the pack in this build, but I've been really enjoying building with life and death just because it's taking me out of my comfort zone. So if you would be interested in seeing me build with more life and death, let me know. I am currently working on a graveyard cemetery lot on stream, and I would be totally down to edit that down into a video. Or just, I don't know, I kind of want to try out some more community lots because that's like really out of my comfort zone as well. Like, not just the build style of this pack, but I build a lot of houses. Um, but yeah, let me know down below if you would be interested in seeing some more build videos because I do enjoy building in The Sims. I just don't ever do it for anybody else. Okay, and with that, I'm gonna head out. Thank you so much for watching this video. I do really appreciate it. If you did enjoy the video, please consider leaving a like or subscribing for more content in the future. And I have a little saying over on my Twitch streams. I usually stream at night, so I don't know if it's nighttime for you yet, but if it isn't, it will be at some point. So I hope you have a great sleep. I hope both sides of your pillow are nice and cold. Okay, bye!